Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for participating in today's global seminar. This is the 36th seminar in the series since it started last year. We acknowledge, celebrate, and pay our respects to the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people of the Canberra region and to all First Nations Australians on whose traditional lands we meet and work and whose cultures are among the oldest continuing cultures in human history. My name is Nuke. I will be chairing today's session and I'm hosting this seminar together with Dr. Arianto Patundru. First, I would like to apologize that beforehand that I have a cold, so my voice is really bad. The seminar is made possible with the support of the Australian National University and Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And we would like to welcome Pak Ono. It's good to have you back at ANU, albeit remotely. Pak Ono doesn't need a lot of introduction. Pak Ono is a Vice Rector at ITTS and a lecturer at IB Dharma Jaya. He's a copyleft, open source believer, and ICT evangelist. Pak Ono holds a PhD degree in electrical engineering from the University of Waterloo, and he graduated from Institut Teknologi Bandung in 1987. Pak Ono was a visiting fellow at ANU Indonesia Project in 2016. He also spoke at ANU Indonesia Project on Digital Indonesia. The seminar will discuss one of the side effects of COVID-19 pandemic, which is the exponential embrace of digital-based communications, from work meetings to school learnings to government programs. Practices that had started before the pandemic, such as e-commerce and e-banking, grow even stronger. But this also means the elevated importance of cybersecurity, as cyber criminals are also seeing opportunities through their phishing, identity theft, or ransomware. And we would like to invite Pak Ono to discuss this issue. Silakan Pak Ono, silakan.
Thank you, Bu Nuke, Pak Arianto, thank you, and you, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, I will share my screen. Okay. This is some of the reference for this talk. Okay, I will post it in the in the chat box. Basically, this is my contact through Twitter or email. Most of the references can be of the material of this talk can be downloaded from the web in these three first URL, some wiki page, and the video for how to hack. Sorry, yes, I do make a lot of video on how to hack, and also as well as cybersecurity, and I post it in YouTube, and because of that, YouTube will delete my channel, unfortunately. So I move some of the video into these websites. Okay, and also with many of my friends, we built the e-learning server on hacking, cybersecurity, e-commerce, and many things in these websites. And this one, the Cyber Academy, is on cybersecurity, and also some of this material in opencourseitts.ac.id, also on cybersecurity. Okay, so I will post this information in the chat box. Feel free to copy, to download all the materials. I will show you some of the materials here. Okay. Oops. Hey, wrong button. Okay. Okay. Yep. Oh, wrong button again. I put here. This is the LMS on a Center ORID/pustaka/docs/security. There is a folder in English. You can download the English material here. This English material has been presented at APSIC, Asia Pacific Special Interest Group, something like that, conference at AIT in 2018, I think. This is on cybersecurity, but you can download. The video is also in my YouTube channel. So the English material can be downloaded from this website. The material is on how to teach cybersecurity. Okay, the technique strategy to empower cybersecurity in the region, not only Indonesia, in the region. This is in English. The material in Indonesians you can download from the folder one folder below of the English folder. This is on white paper written by TikTok, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and me. We are on how to strengthening the cybersecurity in Indonesia. There are several books. This is Belajar Hacking is book on how to hack, and Keamanan Jaringan is the book on cybersecurity. So you can download the book, but this is in Indonesian language, unfortunately. Okay. My outline of the talk. Okay, I will post the outline. I will talk about the leakage of data, see what happened in the Android Play Store, also Googling, what happened on leakage of data in Google, what happened with the victims of the data leakage. We can see from the comment in my YouTube channel. And then we will look at the hacker communities. Hacker is like, for most young Indonesians, hacker is like a hero for them. Many of them would like to become a hacker. They like to learn how to hack and so on. So we look at the hacker community, and then after we look at the hacker community, we will see the government effort for cybersecurity, both Kominfo and BSSN. Maybe I will skim through the my paper at APSIC AIT 2018, and then I will review some of the training materials. The training we do, most of these training are for free. This training is for free and certified, but free most of the time. Only this one, Cyber Academy, they ask for 300,000 rupiah, which is what, $30, something like that. Okay, this is community based. The Cyber Academy run by Cyber Army, Indonesian Cyber Army, is community based academy. Okay, but the other MDA, Mastel, Open Course is free. Is not. Okay, maybe later I will share some story when we actually run cybersecurity training, what happened in the on the ground. Okay, I will post this outline in the chat box as well. Okay, so you can read. Oh, okay. If you have any question, feel free. Did I put in the? Oh, okay. If you have any question, feel free to put it in the chat box. Hopefully, I can read some of the questions. Okay, while I'm doing the. Okay, let's see what happened in the data leakage. The major report can be downloaded. It's summarized by, I think, CNN. Maybe let me see. Where is my pictures? Okay, this one. CNN. You can download this picture from my website as well. The one of the URLs. I put the picture in that URL as well. So this is actually the condition. Okay. Tokopedia, May 2020, 91 million user data, and 7 million merchant sell in the black market for $5,000 US. Bineka, May 2020, also 1.2 million user data, sell in the black market, 1.2 thousand US dollar. The KPU for the election committee, 2.3 million in 2014. But actually, was that 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago? Somebody also sell KPU data again. So only like 3 weeks ago. Because at that time, I was in meeting with the KPU commissioner. and he's a bit worried because the data is leaked from the KPU. Okay. Bukalapak June 2020 13 million. Data COVID-19 June 2020 230,000 patient and many. One of the biggest leakage is the BPJS Kesehatan, the health insurance. 12 May 2021, 279 million data, including the because this is about health, including the password for some of the authentication password, such as the name of the mother's name, that kind of stuff, also included in the data. Okay, out of 2,079 million, about 1 million is set for free download. The 279 we have to pay to get the data, but around 1 million the hacker released the data for free for sample. So the 1 million user, the 1 million data is actually the government need to solve how to protect the 1 million data users. Okay, the latest one is you can look search on the web using kebocoran data. For example, fintech. This is 2020, so it's very easy to find the leakage problem in Indonesia. Okay, this is 30 April, 11 April. This is in what is this one? Cermati.com. Sorry, no. The name of the it doesn't say anything. It's just the largest e-commerce in Indonesia. Okay, but the leakage can be found very easy using this kind of keyword, kebocoran data, and then we will find a lot of them, like BRI, Live, couple of million data is leaked, something like that. So these are one of the latest news only 2 days ago. Okay. Okay, so that's the leakage. Okay, this is the leakage, kebocoran data. Using the kebocoran data as keyword, we will find a lot of leakage in the Indonesian data. Okay, let's check using Google. Some of the leakage actually because the users, the people, they don't realize that they actually leaking their own data. For example, if we use eKTP as a keyword, or KK, kartu keluarga as keyword, or kartu anggota as keyword in Google, we find a lot of interesting things. For example, like this, eKTP. eKTP is the identity, user identity, like this kind of identity, citizen identity. You can get the citizen identity is quite easy because people very happy to make a photo of the identity and share it with others, and that's creating problem. Okay. So it's very easy to leak the identity like this. Okay, this is in Google, and we can use kartu keluarga. Same thing in Google. We see a lot of leakage of kartu keluarga in Google like this. Okay, the most scary one of the scary one is the kartu anggota TNI. This is Army card member also leak like this, because people very happy to take pictures, and sometimes they modified the kartu anggota in using their own number, and then they can pretend to be an army member like that, okay, or Polri. So very easy to leak like this. Okay, now this we can check the leakage in Play Store, Android Play Store. Okay, you can go to Android Play Store and use eKTP as keyword. Okay, and then you can see lots finally from the block URL. Oh, okay. So you can see a lot of apps from Indonesia on how to check the KTP number. Okay, so we can very easy to check the KTP number like this. Okay, and this is a lot of application we can freely download. Even some of the application can read the NFC of the KTP. So we can check the KTP number and we can check the NFC of the KTP. Basically, we can have a lot of information of the citizen card itself like this. Okay, so it's very easy to find. Some of my friend, I'm sorry, some of my friend actually they are a little bit brutal, so they put the NFC, they put their Android to read the NFC, the RFID of the KTP in the lobby of their office, and they ask all the guests who come to their office to tap their KTP into the NFC, and then they need to entry their name, their address into the guest list, and then they can map basically the RFID of the KTP and the name of the owner of the KTP. So some of them actually hack the KTP using that kind of techniques. Okay, sorry. So that's the real one. Okay. So this is what happened with the leakage of the data. Because of this kind of leakage, people can then very easy profiling the victim, the target. I will show you some of the comment of the victim from my YouTube channel, for example. I will move to my channel. Okay. So I'm accessing my channel, which is Ono Center. The channel name is Ono Center. This is the channel name, Ono Center. Let me see if I can read some of the comment. Okay. I will. Oh, sorry. Let me. This is. I think I made some mistakes here. I don't know. Status pelanggan. How come? Okay. Let me see if I can. Okay. Alah, kenapa ini? Let me see if I can. Oh, I make some mistakes here. Okay, I click my channel. Stop. Go to my. Sorry, this is wrong. No, center again. Basically, I'm trying to explore the comment on my channel and then check if I go to my channel again, stop. Let me see if I can get How come I cannot get the comment? Normally it's very easy. Maybe YouTube changed the layout. Okay, video playlist community. How can I find a comment? Basically, I'm trying to look for the comment with keyword, for example, ditipu. Okay, no, I cannot. I cannot. Sorry, I think I have a problem here.
Maybe you can just tell what the comment says, Pak.
Oh, okay. Basically, if I can grab the comment, nearly every day, well, not really every day, a couple of days per week, every couple of days, I receive people asking questions that they have been they become a victim of phishing. People and then they transfer some amount of money. Some of them are 20 million rupiah to the attackers. One of the comment is they actually trying to top up their online payment. They are selling online. They can what's that? They are selling for apa was it cellular pulsa itu apa ya quota for internet. So they open a store for selling quota for the internet, and they are trying to top up the money for the buyers, and they transfer 20 million rupiah to attacker. For example, something like that. And one of the victim, which is women, is in Klaten. She sent me email the other day. She has been a victim of a person in other countries. I cannot say the country. And then she transferred to this particular person about 200 million rupiah. The largest phishing victim that I know is in south of Jakarta, is about 2 billion rupiah. Even my own professor, my own teacher at Institute Technology in Bandung, he was the director of computer center in the aircraft industry in Bandung. He is a victim of phishing about 200 million rupiah. So even my wife also a victim, because one of his friend, her friend, sorry, is asking for money for her child tuition fee, and my wife didn't realize that the Facebook of this friend has been hacked, and then she believed in the information. She transferred 2.5 million rupiah. If the money has been transferred, the bank cannot return the money to my wife. So what happened is, because this is the rules of the bank, if we transfer a certain amount of money to a person, the bank cannot return the money. The money can only be returned by the person who received the money. Okay, so the bank cannot do anything. So we lost 2.5 million rupiah because of that kind of technique. So the attack is very simple. Most of people, they do phishing, and then they send false information, and then people believe in that kind of information and they transfer. So we see those kind of attack. Okay, so this is the comment from the. But I'm sorry, I cannot show you the actual comment because the YouTube changed the layout, so I don't know how to find the comment. Okay, now hacker is actually from this comment, actually the same comment, the same thing. some of them we can see in my Twitter account. Okay, but it's not as brutal and as my comment in YouTube. If you see my Twitter account, is maybe I can see in the notify. Okay, in my Twitter account, many of them are actually basically question and answer type of tweet. Okay, let me see if I can find. For example, like this. Pak Ono, I set up something, and then I have a problem. Can you suggest the solution of that kind of problem? So people ask questions. I answer give the solution for the problem. Sometimes in Twitter, some other Twitter can answer that the particular problem. So the Twitter is basically becoming a classroom, an open classroom, so people can answer and put question and answer. So what happened with Twitter? From this question, I can see very clearly a lot of young Indonesian actually see hacker as their idol. They want to be a hacker. They want to grab the knowledge how to hack. They want to be a hero. They want to be something meaningful. They're looking for their, idol, basically, for the young ones. So because of that, many information, a lot of knowledge on hacking is actually very, very popular among young Indonesians. Okay, the hacker community is quite large in Indonesia right now. To be honest, the actual number I don't know. I cannot guess the actual number. In the past, in the early 2000, I actually managed 4 largest hacker mailing lists in Indonesia. The total member of this 4 largest hacker in Indonesia, that's in the year 2000, is about 60,000 member. Okay, but now even in my YouTube channel, this one, Ono Center, okay, the member is around 155,000 subscriber. Okay, so and many of them are interested in my channel because they actually wants to learn how to hack. So we are looking at a couple 100,000 hacker. But in my channel, maybe many of them are very young, very junior, not the senior ones. So we are looking at that kind of numbers. Having this many hacker, some of them actually we cannot control their attitude. Some of them are good hacker, like white hacker. They actually, some of the white hacker you can find in Cyber Army, for example. This is white hacker, basically. Indonesian Cyber Army is basically white hacker. They actually teach the young Indonesian how to become a bug bounty. They looking for bugs in the server, in many server. Some of the server provide bounty basically for this hacker. If they find a bug in the application, in the server, and then this server will, the administrator of the server normally will pay them for the bugs. So this group of people actually white hacker, and then have these people now they create a cyber academy. Cyber academy. Okay. I personally will run a class on cybersecurity in Cyber Academy next week, actually, starting next week for 2 months. So, okay, so this is one of the hacking class for hacker. So they actually teach how to become a good hacker, how to do a penetration test correctly, and how to analyze cybersecurity in a website or an institution. They teach in this cyber academy. Okay, so this cyber academy is coming from white hacker community. They teach the young ones to become a good hacker, and they do something like this. Okay, okay. So this is the hacker community. Some of them actually do the discussion not only in Twitter, in WhatsApp or Telegram groups. They interact in these groups. I personally more on Twitter because it's more open, so everybody can. There is no membership. Everybody can read the old posting and so on. It's very easy and no censorship, no membership, no nothing. So it's very open. So I personally more leaning towards Twitter rather than WhatsApp and Telegram. But some of the hacker actually on Telegram and WhatsApp group is more close. Now, having this lot of hacking community in Indonesia, of course we cannot control this. To be honest, it's very difficult to control this group. Some of them is sometimes we cannot control, but we normally use like peer pressure among us to stop the bad things happening. But sometimes we cannot stop those things. Okay, okay. I'm having difficulty to express more openly because it's this is like recorded, so a bit scary for me to make more open statement about what happened. Okay, anyway, so basically we are having a problem in what controlling the behavior some of the hacker. Okay, but sometimes we know each other. So we very gradually trying to convince them not to do bad things, but sometimes we cannot control those things. Okay, now what happened with Kominfo and BSSN effort? Okay, this is what happened. This is from the what's that? The security side. Okay, Kominfo. Sorry. I think we need to do something like this. Kominfo, they have a PSE.
I just want to, sorry, Pak, I just want to give a background. Kominfo is the Ministry of Information and Indonesian Ministry of Information, and BSSN is the Indonesian Cyber Agency.
Yes. So Kominfo is the Indonesian, used to be the Ministry of Information, but now including the ICT. So PSE is the, I have to put it more, penyelenggara sistem elektronik. So every operator of electronic system, including websites, including ICT platform, online shop, they have to register to Kominfo. This is the rules by Kominfo. So every single operator of electronic system have to register to Kominfo. In the process, in the registration process, they have to audit their security. So they have to pass the security audition. The security audition is the ISO 20. So they have to pass this ISO 27000. Okay. In theory, so this is the ISO 27000 is information security management. Okay, they have to pass this audit. Okay. Now, if we move to Kominfo, PSA, many of them actually pass the registered. That means, so we can check this website tumpuk.com, Desco ID, Danamart.id, French Cheese, a lot of websites, they register their website to Kominfo, and theoretically, they have to pass the security audit, theoretically, okay? Because when they submit their registration, they have to submit their certificate that they are past the ISO 27000 information security audit. So theoretically, all of the websites is safe, theoretically, okay? But in reality, I have to read the white paper. Let me see the white paper. Okay. The white paper was, I already closed the my. So you can download the white paper from my website here. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Go to website publication. This is the white paper. Okay. It's also in the URL I post earlier. Same. Okay. Now, let me go down. So this is the data from BSSN, the cyber security body, the Indonesian cyber security body. BSSN actually putting cyber attack sensor in many sites, so they can monitoring the number of attack within Indonesia. Okay, so they record about 29 million attack in 2019, and in early 2020 is 149 million. This is early 2020, so about 1 year ago. But now it's much higher than 150 million. Okay, so the attack is more brutal because most of the attack is done by robot basically, and then 83% of corporate in Indonesia is being hacked. So if we see the data from Kominfo, most of the company is registered their website to Kominfo, and in the registration process, they have to audit the information security using ISO 27000 framework. But actually, in reality, 83% of the company is being hacked. So this is the reality. Okay. Okay. Now, little bit about BSSN. Yeah, this is their website, bssn.go.id. BSSN. This is the like the cyber security body in Indonesia. They have many. Let me see if I can show the organization structure. Let me see if I can go to the organization. This is the organization. They actually have a lot of activity to including empowering the communities. Basically, so they have the policy body, they have the operation, cyber security operation, deputy. They have human resource, and they have the cybersecurity for including in the economic sector. Okay, now I give you an example of this vulnerability analysis is this one. This one. Okay, in this area. The cybersecurity and the human resource in this area, they actually, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. In this area, some of the responsible of this area is they actually trying to evaluate the vulnerability of all because they are concentrated in the government sector. So all government sector, they are trying to evaluate the vulnerability of their website of the government sector. Indonesia right now, they have like 400, 500 municipal. For example, if every municipal has around 10 application, this is roughly around 10 application, that means they have to evaluate about 5,000 application. The actual deputy for doing the evaluation, the vulnerability analysis evaluation, they have only a dozen staff to do the evaluation for 5,000 website with a dozen staff. So I make a joke with the deputy the other day. Okay, this is like general in the army. So most of the deputies actually general in the army, including the head of the BSSN, actually a general in the army. So they are actually most of the leader are actually general in the army. So I make a joke with him the other day. Okay, you have a dozen of staff and you have 5,000 website to evaluate. Normally one website, one application needs about like 1 week to evaluate. So I asked him, okay, how many years we will finish this? Because there are so many application and so little human resource. So that's what happened with BSSN. Yes, we have the cybersecurity, but we don't have enough resource to do the big job we have to that we have to do. So the other day I actually proposed to my the deputy, my friend, and then I proposed to him, how about we empower the local office in the province or in the municipal so they can evaluate, they can self-evaluate their application. Okay, I thought that's a good idea. I thought that's a good idea. And then he said, okay, let's try. Okay, so one day we set up a workshop in Bandung, in West Java province in Bandung. We invite the regional office in Bandung, and as well as the municipal office of the information, like Kominfo regional office in Bandung and municipal. Okay, so they are coming to our workshop, and I run the I teach in the workshop. Okay, I always thought, okay, these guys is from ICT guy. They're supposed to be ICT guy. Okay, they bring their own laptop, and I asked them, "Can you open the laptop? And then can we install Kali Linux? Kali Linux is the application for penetration test. Kali Linux."
Pak Ono, just a
Yes.
reminder, 2 more minutes, Pak.
Huh? 2 more
We'll
minutes?
go into discussion, so it's nice to
Oh,
have
okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. 2 more minutes. So, okay. So, well, okay. I skipped that story. I skipped. So, because of that, I actually opened the training for free. This is MDA Master. I'll show the website. This is for free. So people can actually learn for free from this website. We have available course in keamanan cybersecurity for free. We have jaringan computer network for free. So a lot of courses for free. MDA Mastel is Masyarakat Telematika, is composed of operator, startup, online shop. They are gather in this Masyarakat Telematics, and then we create this website for free. And people can get the certificate for free in these websites. Okay, and to be honest, many people having difficulty to get the certificate because of the level of knowledge. They don't have enough knowledge to reach that kind of level. And then my campus, my university, Institute of Technology in Tangerang Selatan, I will log in. We provide the courses for free as well. Cybersecurity, the computer network, and so on for free. I like to show you a little bit in cybersecurity course. Okay, so I go to cybersecurity course. This is open course and free. This is the material, concept of TCP/IP and so on. And then at the end, okay, if their mark is more than 90, they can get the completion certificate for free. Okay, the total, let me see. The total participant of this course is about 2,000. Let me see, around 2,100 participants in this course, free course. And then only, let me see how many people get certificate. Only 20 people can get the certificate, have reached 90% in their mark. So we can say like what, 1% of the participant actually have the qualification as good cybersecurity. But this is free course, okay? What happened in the real course is more scary, okay? I think I stop here so we can have a lot more discussion. I give it back to Bu Nuke. Bu Nuke, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Pak. We'll open the questions and answer sessions now. We have several questions already lined up. But I will start with my question first, Pak. Maybe you could explain a bit more about the geopolitics of cybersecurity in Indonesia. Does Indonesian government get a lot of cyber attacks from foreign countries? Do you know? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. Wow. Many from China. I shouldn't say that, but yes, most of them for China. Some from Australia, but not as a lot, not as much as China. Actually, yes.
So they hit the government websites or government database.
All government and private sector. Actually, private sector is more tempting than government because a lot of money in private sector. Government no money.
Okay, and I'll take some questions from Agam Fatur Rahman and Ahmad Hidayat and Andrew. I think we'll collect all these questions, and if you could start talking now.
Okay.
Agam, would you like to ask your question directly?
Yeah, Pak Ono.
Yes.
Thank you, Pak. Honestly, I never heard about Institute Teknologi Tangerang Selatan.
Oh, this is very new.
I live in Tangerang Selatan. But this is related to my company. Yeah. Last week, one of our employee was missing in action. Yeah, taking our company car and also laptops and others. Yeah. So our Human Capital Department and Security contacted the local Polres asking to track the staff. Yeah. So in 30 minutes, a short report by WhatsApp forwarded to us. We already got the location in Google Maps, and also interestingly near CCTV. So my question is related to how far the law enforcement agencies have this kind of capabilities, tracking location, doxing, and also the pro cons about these capabilities, whether this will suppress our civil liberties and others. I think that's all. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, to be honest.
Okay, sorry, Pak. Yeah. We'll collect 3 questions at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then just to continue with someone else asked a question, continuing with my question, what does that mean, Pak Ono? Attacks from China and from Australia, what sort of attack do they do? What sort of threats that they send to Indonesia? And the next question is Pak Ahmad Hidayat. Pak Ahmad Hidayat, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, thank you, Pak Ono.
Yeah.
I have a question,
Yes.
As you explained earlier, that the number of data leaks and the number of cyber attacks. So, in your opinion, how urgent is the passing of the Personal Data Protection Law and the Cybersecurity and Resilience Law?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the next question from Andrew.
I think my question has been asked, Nuka, is just about how successful has the Indonesian cyber law enforcement agencies been in preventing and also catching the cyber criminals?
Okay. Very difficult. Very scary and difficult questions. Okay. Answering Bu Nuka first about the type of attack. Most of the attack actually most of the attack actually robot. The attack is done by robot, by applications. So the one that managed to grab the database is actually person, but many of the attacks is actually robot, and robot is not as smart as human. They cannot get the database. Okay. So if we see a lot of attack, it's not as threatening as we expect. If the human do the attack, that's more scary because human is smarter than application. Okay. So yes, we have a lot of attack, but it's not as scary as we think. Okay. So that's the attack. Answering Bu Nuka questions about the Pak Agam. Actually, also related to the Pak Ahmad. Pak Agam and Pak Andrew is about how successful the Indonesian cyber law enforcement in preventing and catching the cyber criminals. To be honest, yes, they have the capacity to monitor our WhatsApp, our talk by phone, many of our communications. Yes, they have capability, but the problem is they have the ability is there. The number of staff who has to who can do those things is limited. So Pak Agam is fortunate because they can track the actual person who steal their car and laptops. He's fortunate the Polres can do those things. But many of us cannot get that kind of benefit, actually. So they lose their laptop and that's it. It's lost. Okay. Many of them, to get that kind of response, we need to pay a lot to the police, I'm sorry. So we had to pay, and we can. To be honest, the Indonesian Intelligence Agency, they have the capacity to do those things. They can enter the intelligence agency, the police, the military. They can enter the telecommunication infrastructure. They can access the core network of the telecommunication infrastructure, and they can grab the what's that? CDR, detail detailed communication record of the core network of the operator. They can grab the detailed record and they can see which number call what number at what time, how long, and sometimes they can grab the SMS and so on. So yes, they have the capacity like that. Okay, so that's answering Pak. But to get the privilege to grab their attention is more difficult because we need to pay sometimes a lot for those things. Okay, now to answer Pak Ahmad, how important you think to pass the Personal Data Protection Act? Yes, it is important from the law perspective, but to be honest, we need to be, from my experience, yes, law is important, but human resource, the capacity, the number of staff that capable to do the forensic, those kind of stuff, we need more of those things. So law, yes, but law is not enough. We need human to do the actual groundwork. Okay, I hope I answered most of the questions. We still have questions from Bu Deborah, Pak Welly Irawan.
Yeah, the next round we'll take a question from Ibu Deborah and Bradley Bolton and Pak Welly Wirawan. Silakan Ibu Deborah. Hi, Ibu Deborah, are you there? I can read your question if not. Okay, I might just read it. Thank you, Pak, for sharing, Pak Ono. How has the cybersecurity landscape in Indonesia changed during the pandemic? The cyber threat landscape, as well as the cyber readiness of the government and the civil society in dealing with the changing cyber threat landscape. And also, we got a question from Fiona. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, silakan.
Thank you, Bang Ono. This is Fiona. Hope you are well. Thank you for sharing. I only have simple question, Bang Ono. Thank you for sharing about your class, about your cybersecurity. But I really concerned actually for Indonesian people regarding about e-commerce. When actually like Bukalapak, Tokopedia, when they can leak this kind of data. So basically, what step can be taken actually for general people when actually they don't have access or knowledge about cybersecurity? When now they use social media activity and online shopping probably growing so well during COVID pandemic. That's my first question. And second one, I also heard that social media account profile actually is more valuable to be sell rather than stolen credit card number. Is it correct? And why? Why the social media account is more valuable? Thank you so much, Bang Ono.
Okay, Bu Fiona. Nice to meet you again.
Yes.
And the next question is from Bradley. Silakan. You there?
Hi, Ono. You kind of talked about 83% of corporate was attacked in your white paper.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to break that down a bit. Was that because of a failure of like emergency response teams or like information or advice not being there or just bad literacy and practice? So what's kind of the weak link there?
Oh, okay. I'll try to answer Pak Bradley first, maybe. Most of the time when attacker attack, they will attack the weakest link, which is the user, the customer. So normally they attack through that path, through the user and the customer. So because they are not well informed, so most of the time they will not attack directly to the corporate. So they will attack the users, the pegawai, the staff, and the customer. So that's the weakest link. So it's actually also answering Bu Deborah questions on the cybersecurity landscape in Indonesia during pandemic. Okay. So the same answer actually correspond to Bu Deborah on the change in cybersecurity landscape. In the past, most of the office, the design of cybersecurity in the office assume that the staff will be work at the office, not outside, not at home. Okay, but during the pandemic, most of the staff will work from home. And that's changed a lot of the cybersecurity landscape. Because of that, they are more vulnerable to attack because they work from home. The attacker can inject Trojan to the gadget or laptop of the workers, and they can sniff the traffic, and they can get a lot of information from the Trojan. Because of that, many of the I have to confess here. Because of that, I received a lot of invitation to give talk in this corporate on how to do internet safety for the end users. So it's totally different than before pandemic. Before pandemic, I am not receiving a lot of webinar on internet safety for end users, but now a lot. Nearly every week, I have to give the same talk about internet safety to the end users. So that's what happened. Now, to Bu Fiona, yes, actually, to be honest, the social media is more valuable than the credit card. The credit card is maybe more difficult to attack because they have like OTP password and so on. But having media social profile, we can learn the connection of one person to the other person, how they behave, what kind of stuff they like, and then we can exploit that kind of information to do phishing. We can send false information, and that's what happened with my wife. The attacker sent false information, and my wife transfer money to the attacker. So they actually, the attack style is changed because using social engineering, we call it social engineering. Basically, we fool a person using false information and hoping this person will transfer the fund to the attacker bank account. The end result is the same. They are looking for money, but the way of the attack is different. In the old days, we use credit card number, but now we are not attacking the credit card number because it's more difficult to attack now. Credit card is easier through media social. So the easiest way for defense, please do not posting a lot of information in media social. So limit your posting. That's it. Sometimes they said, think before posting. I hope I answer many of the questions. The last one is Pak Welly. Should I answer?
Pak Welly maybe would like to ask the question directly.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Pak Ono Purbo. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I agree with some point in this presentation when you show us many electronic KTP is spread out in the Google. Memang cybersecurity is something that is involved in multi-sectoral,
yes,
such as government, private, critical infrastructure, and public awareness.
Yes.
Based on global cybersecurity agenda,
yes,
that is published by ITU,
yes,
there is several things to focus and increase the level of cybersecurity, and public awareness is one of them.
Yeah.
My question is, in your opinion, as practitioner or in cybersecurity, what should the government immediately pay attention to improve our national cybersecurity? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Pak, ada tambahan Pak, to follow up with Welly's question. There is a question on the chat box. Organizational wise, is the public service ready to securely deploy IT in the working environment?
Okay. I will talk from my heart, the bottom of my heart, very honest, because I was involved in some of the process, and I'm nearly cry on what happened. To be honest, the Indonesian government, they have money. They have a lot of money to buy the equipment they need to do the cyber, to secure their network, to deploy their network. Yes, they have a lot of money. So the mindset of most of the leader, the head of the government, the mindset they need, because they actually forced by the ecosystem to, so because the people surrounding the leaders mostly asking them for success story. Okay, I have to build, for example, firewall, big firewall. I have to build a system for blocking pornographic sites. I have to build such and such. So the mindset is building things, and they have money. So the mindset is they buy. So the mindset is they buy the equipment. In one from certain angle, is that there is nothing wrong to buy this kind of type of equipment. But what happened is, okay, yeah, and the other side is the law. Yes, they are working on building, setting up the data privacy act and so on. Yes, there is nothing wrong with that. The problem is when they buy these things, and this happening in front of my eyes, they complain. The leaders is actually complain. The leaders is this leaders is actually a general, several general, not one, not single general, several general. They actually responsible for implementing this security. They complain to me. The complaint is very simple. Oh no, we have bought this many expensive equipment and this equipment doesn't work. Okay. And then to be honest, I did test some of their stuff 3-4 years ago. From out of 120, I asked them to do the exam in my free course. Only 3% pass. 120, only 3% pass. So I told them, what happened is, it's not about the equipment, it's not about the budget, it's not about the money, it's the person behind the equipment. Because firewall, IT equipment, computer is only a tool. They need a person to operate, they need a person to configure, they need a person to do those things. And we lack of those person. And this kind of knowledge is not teach. Mostly it's not teach in the Indonesian university, because many of the lecturer, they don't have the capacity to teach these things. Because of this knowledge is like what's that? Is underground knowledge. It's not formal knowledge. We need to become a hacker. We need to learn from this community, and most of the lecturer is not that kind of person. So what we are lacking is human resource actually. Okay. Not the money, not the equipment, not the law, is human resource. So my suggestion is emphasis on human resource, especially the curriculum, especially the underground people. Most of the knowledge is free actually, but we are not emphasis enough to grab this kind of knowledge. So I hope I answer Pak Welly question. But actually, I hope the Indonesian can be much better than now.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Ono. I have another question.
Okay, wow.
Sorry. Can we talk a bit more about ransomware in Indonesia? Like how common it is? Because we don't hear a lot of news about that on the news. Maybe you can tell us a bit about it. Where the ransomware come from? Is it from local or from international and that sort of things? And then the second question, we'll take question from Ibu Lydia Napitupulu and from I Hardianto.
Okay.
Lydia, if you could ask your question.
Hi, Pak Ono. Great to see you.
Yeah,
we went to Perth together, Pa, when you presented your paper. So, Pak Ono, you mentioned some negative impacts by hackers. Can you say something about the positive aspect of having a large number of competent hackers? I know you teach them how to hack. So can you give us a little bit more so that it's not a stigma that hacking is bad to the general public. I mean, amongst the younger, they know hacking is good, but the general public might not understand what what benefits there are to good hackers. Also, you mentioned just now that there is not a strong demand for good hackers, or there's a lack of good hackers. I'm not sure what you mean, but with the large e-commerce and digitalization, there should be more demand for good hackers, right, Pa?
Yes.
So
right.
Are they earning good money? Is there a good income? So I think that's an incentive if we look from the economic point of view. If there is a good incentive for a good steady income, then that might be an incentive for them to not go into cybercrime. Thank you, Pa Ono.
Okay.
Thank you. And another question from I Hardianto. Would you like to ask your question live? Okay. If not, then I will just ask the question for I Hardianto. Pa Ono, how do we protect against hacker, including personal data leak? Instead, think before sharing. Should we avoid social media and live in a dark cave? Okay.
Wow. Okay. I think it's difficult to avoid social media. To be honest, I use social media for self-marketing. to influence social marketing, basically influence others on certain type of knowledge or technology. I need social media. So I cannot avoid social media. But I'm very concerned about what I'm posting. So I'm controlling what I'm posting. So that's how I protect myself from hackers. Okay, I protect from them from exploiting my information to become their benefit. So definitely like that. And I'm really hoping that people actually ask me if there is something strange about my posting, or people actually trying to mimic Ono in WhatsApp, and they said, my name is Ono Wepurbo, this is my number, and then people sending me email, are you Ono? Ono, are you have WhatsApp? So they always cross check because of that. Okay, so open myself into cross check so people can cross check on what happened. So that's about Pak Hardianto. Bu Lydia, to be honest, to become a good cybersecurity practitioner, expert, we need to know, for example, the logic is very simple. To have a good defense knowledge, we need to know how people attack. So to a good defender has to know how others attack us. So to have a good knowledge on cyber security or cyber defense, we need to know how the best hacker attack our network. So hacker and cyber security is side by side. We cannot learn cybersecurity without learning how to hack. So we have to learn both simultaneously. When if we see my course, I teach both attack and defense, because I cannot teach only defense. I have to teach attack and teach defense. Okay, and to be honest, their salary. So the level is like this: computer network expert, and then attack, and then defense, and then forensic, and then security auditor. To give you some ideas about the rate, the rate of a forensic, IT forensic in Indonesia for one project is about 100 million rupiah. And the one single project takes about 1 week. So 1 week work worth 100 million rupiah for a forensic. Cyber defense rate is about 20 to 30 million rupiah per month. Monthly rate is like that. But to be honest, the data scientists make more money than cyber defense now. So better go for the data scientist and do data analytics is make more money. So yes, to give you some idea again, from the hacker side, pen tester side, one of my lecturer at Institute Technology in Tangerang Selatan, his son was still in high school now. He's in process in applying to become a student university. And then a couple of months ago, he actually entered a competition, not hackathon basically, like bug hunting in a company in Surabaya. They open a website for bug hunting, so they welcome everyone to look for the bug. They put a price tag for 2 million rupiah per bug. Okay, this particular person, only a high school student, he managed to get like 50, 60 bucks from their websites. So he actually theoretically has to receive like 120 million rupiah. And then this company negotiate with this young guy, how about we pay about 40 million? So he said, okay, I only work for 3 days and receive 40 million, that's fine. So he received 40 million. Yes, they make a lot of money as a bug hunter. So bug hunter becoming like more very positive impact. So hacker is positive in terms of looking for bugs. So they are not breaking or cracking the system. Now, answering Bu Nuk questions about ransomware. To be honest, once a week I receive email from a person that the data is gone because of ransomware. Yes, so ransomware is increasing. Why? Because the Indonesian people is very curious. If they see a link in WhatsApp or email or whatever, they click the link. Okay, and that's how the ransomware coming. And many of these people actually go to pornographic sites, and that's where many of the ransomware live. Okay, now the question. Where this ransomware came from? Is it local Indonesia or international? Both. To be honest, the source code of ransomware is open. The Indonesian hacker actually building this ransomware from this open source ransomware software. You can get it in GitHub. We can compile it. The other day, I have 2 years ago, I guess, because it was a seminar, not webinar. It's a seminar, physical seminar. One of the speaker is the guy who built ransomware. He's Indonesian, and he built ransomware, and he's already he's insaf. What is in English insaf? Insaf. So he's already insaf.
He doesn't do the bad. Anymore.
He no longer do the bad things anymore. And then he tells the story how he does these things. It's open source, so people can build these things. So yes, both sides, Indonesian and international, the source is both. Okay, because it's open. Do I make it?
Okay, thank you, Paulo. On that ransomware, there was a follow-up question. What's the general consensus with the government and the private sectors? Do people want to pay the ransomware in general, or they just ignore it?
Some people pay, and still they cannot get the solution. The theory is we pay and we get the key to decrypt the file, right? In practice, it doesn't happen. So they pay, and the file is still encrypted.
So it's better not to pay ransomware.
Better not to. So better we back up the files.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna do for the last round of question. We have a question from Vicky, and we take the next two, Abdul Rohim. So I'm just gonna open up the Vicky. Okay, I think I'm just gonna ask Vicky's question. who is that? I'm a cybersecurity practitioner in Indonesia. I don't see this profession being valued in Indonesia. In your perspective, what needs to change for this situation? And the last question is from Abdul Rahim. Abdul Rahim, would you like to ask your question directly? Okay, I will just read it. Pak Ono, about data leaks or problems or challenges in Indonesia, considering that there is already a law that stated the system operator responsibility to data securities, from your opinion, what should be done to deal with the challenge? Is it to by emphasizing on the policy level, on the new laws, or on the practice level? Should the system operator be enforced to take the responsibilities for the data leak? I think those two questions.
Wow. Okay, Pak Abdul Rahim is more difficult. Okay, I answered the easiest one first, Pak Vicky. Yes, sometimes we think we are not value enough by the corporate and so on. When they are in trouble, then they value us more. When they are not in trouble, they never think about us, the cybersecurity practitioner. So what happened is, from my experience, we need to learn how to sell ourselves. The cybersecurity practitioner, we need to sell ourselves. So when I teach my students how to sell themselves, this is like a selling our expertise. How to tell people that we are an expert. How to tell people how to value us, the practitioner. Some of the ways to increase our value is our publication. So for example, we publish books, we create a video in YouTube. That kind of thing will increase our value a lot. Okay, that's actually why I was invited by Bank Indonesia, BRI, a lot of banks actually inviting me to give talk on cyber internet safety and so on, because they see my video in YouTube and so on. I'm hoping ANU will record this session and posting in YouTube. That's also increase my value. So that's how to increase our. So it's more our strategy on how to increase our value, actually. Okay, I see many of my students, their value is increased dramatically because of the publication. Is actually, if we are not publicized that we are the expert, we only take the professional certificate. So we are cybersecurity professional certified by this company. Yes, it increased value a little bit, but the public opinion will increase our value a lot through YouTube publication and so on. So I'm really hoping Pak Vicky can do those things. If you like to write books, I'm very happy to help you writing books. You don't have to pay for this. I'm very happy to helping people to write books, and then I'm hoping that will increase your value a lot, because the Indonesian need that kind of knowledge, books and so on. They need to read books about this kind of knowledge. Okay, that's Pak Vicky. Pak Abdul Rahim, that's more difficult. Okay. Do we emphasize in policy level or practice level, skill level, the law enforcement operator responsibility? To be honest, both. But actually, we have a lot of law right now, okay, including the ITE, Information and Electronic Transaction Law. It's already implemented, but the problem is in practice level. Actually, there are not many people capable to secure the network correctly, implement the encryption, the public key, private key infrastructure. That kind of stuff is lacking. So if I may answer, I tend towards the practice level rather than law. Okay, we have enough law, we have enough policy, but in practice we are lacking. So I go for the practice level actually.
Thank you, Pak Ono. I think I would like to thank everyone who has participated in this seminars. I see a lot of cyber experts in the panel and the participant list. And please join us to thank Pak Ono for his insights and his expertise that he shared with us today. And I would like to ask Acho to give the final remarks or anything. Acho.
Thank you, Nuke. Thank you again, Pak Ono. It's always good to have you in our activities, and we really appreciate your sharing your knowledge with us. And I believe the attendants also benefit from your sharing your experience.
You're welcome.
So again, thank you, Pak Ono. Thank you to everyone who attended this webinar. Next week, we will have a special session on Friday, and that will be Indonesian Policy Dialogue Series number 2, where we have a discussion with Mr. Arshad Rashid, the chairman of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That will be Friday, 10 a.m. Jakarta time or 1 p.m. Canberra time. So thank you so much, and I will let Nuke to close the session.
Thank you, Pak Ono.
Thank you everyone.
Stay healthy, Pak.
Arianto. Ya,
sampai ketemu lagi ya, Pak ya.
Thank you.
Jangan kapok, Pak Ono.
Ya, terima kasih. Sebagian besar peserta Indonesia rupanya ya. Lihat dari statistiknya.
Ya, ada dari Jepang juga, ada dari UK.
Menarik. Thank you.
Nanti link semuanya yang Pak Ono sampaikan kita taruh di website, nggak apa-apa, Pak ya?
Oh, sangat boleh sekali.
Oke, Pak.
Yeah. Jual diri itu, Ono sedang jual diri.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will leave now.
Sampai ketemu lagi ya, Pak.
Thank you.
Ya, terima kasih.